is a way to kind of cheat those matchups. So it makes a lot of sense to go in that direction.
That is the question, and we're going to see if we can get it answered here right now, as Dylan Hand and Joe Lossett are both 5-0. Mono green control, mono green, technically, mono green control.
Yeah, it's a control deck.
Mono green Tron versus Jeskai control is what we're going to watch right now for round number 6. We'll see who's on the play, and we will be underway in just a moment. Interesting decks. I like this new modern take. I think this is really cool. Yeah, Eldrazi this would have been nonsense if Eldrazi were around, but now that Eldrazi is gone and Ancestral Visions is here, we get to see some cool stuff.
Eldrazi just a little too powerful and a little bit too disruptive and a little too fast to be eligible for Modern. Not surprised to see some bans. And Ancestral Vision, it's an interesting card because it could make the format move in one of two directions. People have to speed up to beat it before it comes off suspend, or the game slow down and it becomes these attrition card advantage battles.
We will start it up. The players should have the green light. We're ready to rock and roll. And here we are. Celestial Colony to start.
I don't think we would have seen people register Goblin Dark Dwellers for this event had Ancestral Vision not come off the ban list.
It's a Urza's Tower, a Chromatic Star, and Joe is doing Joe things right now. A Sacred Founder here for Dylan. He'll pass the turn back. And of course, this for Joe, this has got to be an easy deck choice, right? Because not only does he get to play disgusting white basics, he gets to play 5 of them. And I didn't even think he owned Forest.
Well, now the interesting thing will be, does he have mismatched Tron pieces?
Ooh. That is quite... the answer is yes, because I see a different Urza's Tower in his hand.
Yeah, the white border basic lands already indicate a lack of interest in normal standards and norms for these sort of things.
Yeah. This is a Spell Snare, a card, again, that we expect to see quite an uptick on this weekend.
Really important with Ancestral Vision decks to be able to defend yourself inside the first couple of turns, and Spell Snare is an excellent card at doing that, especially on the draw.
Here's Wall of Omens. And now there's Ancestral Vision on suspend. Over to Joe Lossett we go. Picked up a copy of Wormcoil Engine, but he's a little ways away from casting that. There's a Forest. Expedition Map. He'll pass the turn back over to Dylan Hand. Hand will tick down that Ancestral Visions down to 3 counters.
Another interesting thing going on in this matchup, one of the worst matchups for Tron in the old Modern format was Splinter Twin. You had to load up on a lot of Rending Volleys. Joe in a mono green skeleton here has no Rending Volleys, obviously, and now he's playing against the combo where you would really like to have that kind of interaction.
Well, the Wall of Omens, a Sacred Foundry, enters the battlefield tapped. And Hand will pass the turn back over to Lossett. Lossett will crack the Expedition Map on Dylan's end step. He'll get himself an Urza's Mine.
One of the biggest costs, though, for this particular build of Jeskai is the colored mana situation. Having blue mana on the first turn of the game to suspend Ancestral and also be able to cast Kiki Jiki on time is no small ask.
Well, Cascade Bluffs goes a long way towards helping this mana base. It doesn't help with the Visions problem, but it does help with Kiki Jiki, and Dylan Hand does have 2 copies of that. A Chromatic Sphere. Joe will sacrifice that, get a basic Forest. And now play an Oblivion Stone. And that card's pretty nice here. That'll allow Joe to defend himself against the combo, assuming he has the necessary mana to do as much as Vision suspends down to 2.
Yeah, this is a great piece of insurance for Lossett to have him play. Very prohibitive for Hand to commit too much to the battlefield as long as Oblivion Stone stays.
Another Colonnade there for Hand. He'll pass the turn back over to Lossett. Lossett is in search of an Urza's Power Plant now. Looks like for now he'll just play a Ghost Quarter. And now we head back over to Dylan Hand. Vision's down to 1. A Scalding Tarn. And a Visions that's going to come off suspend next turn. Joe will draw. Picked up another Sphere. And now there is the Sphere. That'll resolve. And now he'll crack that, presumably for a green mana. Draw a card, picked up a copy of Sylvan Scrying. So if that resolves, the Tron is complete. But will it resolve?
And now Lossett's got to figure out, well, do I want to play a land here and give up Tron this turn to play around Mana Leak? With the pace of the game, I think the answer is probably yes, but if he's got some big follow-up here, he may risk it.
Well, he said, I'm not going to play around Mana Leak. I want to resolve my Sylvan Scrying. It will resolve. There's his power plant. So Lossett's got all the pieces of the Tron. Keep in mind he has not played a land yet this turn. If memory serves. So he should be clear for takeoff, and he is. That means Oblivion Stone's at the ready, but I think he wants to play a bigger spell. And he'd like to go for a Worm Coil Engine. Now the interesting thing is that Joe could die right now, but it's just going to be a Path to Exile in that Worm Coil Engine. And Dylan's going to search up a Scalding Tarn. Or excuse me, search up a Steam Fence with his Scalding Tarn.
Honestly, Lossett might not even know that hand has the combo.
I think it's very unlikely that he does know that, because it's not something that's really something we see a lot of.
And every card that hand has played so far could easily just be a part of some sort of flash Jeskai control deck. I think Restoration Angel, for example, is definitely on Lossett's radar at this point, but not necessarily Kiki Jiki.
Visions will resolve. 3 cards coming, and let's take another one for the draw step. So 4 new cards here for Dylan Hand. Pretty powerful card, one could say.
If you got the time.
Yep.
It was not banned in the first place for no reason.
For Dylan, he's just going to pass the turn back. For Joe, he gets to untap. And Ghost Quarter among those lands. Now, he's got access to a boatload of mana. On the upkeep, it looks like it's going to be a Vendilion Click. And Dylan wants to see exactly what Joe is working with here. See the hand. It looks like multiple O-Stones and just a couple of lands over here for Joe Lossett. Another is a tower, a Ghost Quarter, a forest, and it looks like 2 O-Stones. And I think Dylan says, you know what, you can keep those.
I think if it was 1 O-Stone, hand might want to take it out of there. But with 2, he's just got to work his way through this, and he has to be concerned about Lossett finding one of his big plays at this point. So he'll just have to play through these O-Stones.
Here's an attack for 3. Lossett will take that damage. Fall down to 17. Got a lot of life to work with. Another Ancestral Vision is going to go on suspend for Dylan. Yeah, he's thinking about playing a land. He'll play a Scalding Tarn. And simply pass the turn back. Lossett will draw. Another Ghost Quarter will enter the battlefield. Excuse me, that might not be another Ghost Quarter. That might actually be the Sanctum of Ugin, isn't it?
Yes, 1 Sanctum of Ugin in the deck.
Now, he does have 2 Ghost Quarters and 1 Sanctum of Ugin. The artwork on those cards is very similar, so we'll make sure what those lands are. If it's 2 Ghost Quarters or 1 Sanctum, 1 Ghost Quarter, we'll carefully ask. We've got to be careful about that. Don't want to tip off anything.
I'm looking for the hologram in the bottom center.
Yeah?
That's the tip-off that is the Sanctum.
Gotcha.
But I can't say for sure.
Yeah, you can't say for sure.
I'm just saying, if I could, that's where I would look.
Gotcha. There's an attack for 3. They are both Ghost Quarters.
Okay.
Oblivion Stone, gonna go kaboom. Take care of those permanents. Now Joe will draw. Picked up a copy of Ancient Stirrings, it appears. So he'll play that.
I think hand has the combo rolled up in hand. Now, can't make a move with it just yet because Joe has so many copies of Oblivion Stone, but he is threatening a kill.
Hello, Ulamog, how are you? Now, what's interesting here is that if Joe just goes for Ulamog, he could just flat die.
Yes. This is going to be just a question of, is the combo on Lossett's radar? If it is, he'll probably just cast the Oblivion Stone and pass and try to keep that up for a while. If he thinks that he's just on some sort of control deck, he might go for Ulamog this turn, and I think that'll get himself killed.
There's a Spellskite, which makes sense. You want to lead with that instead of Ulamog.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's Ulamog. Now I'm curious to see if he can cut off all the red sources. But it makes sense to me that he wouldn't even want to do that. He'd want to take care of the colonnades. Now here's a Path to Exile. This will be interesting here. See how Dylan wants to respond. And we'll see again what Joe is targeting with Ulamog's Cash Trigger. There's an Electrolyze to you. Deal 2 damage, draw a card is what Dylan Hand's going to do. And now we do have confirmation that Ulamog is targeting both of the colonnades, so those get exiled. But I don't think Dylan seems to mind. If he's got the combo rolled up, this one's over, folks. Restoration Angel's here. Dylan will draw. Triple red cards, Kiki Jiki. See you later, Joe Lossett. No response to that. He's going to go infinite, and Joe will concede the game. As Dylan Hand's going to win game number 1 here over Joe Lossett. Jeskai Control up a game over Mono Green Tron as that Kiki Jiki Restoration Angel, that combo kind of hidden into this deck.
And pretty bad news here for Lossett because it's not like he's flush with answers for this combo in the sideboard either.
And that's exactly where we're going to go. We're going to take a look at the sideboards, and we will start with Joe, who's got a Crucible of Worlds, 3 Spatial Contortion, 4 Nature's Claims, 2 Obstinate Baloth, 2 Thragtusk, 2 Relic of Progenitus, and a Pithing Needle. And you said it. Not a lot of hate here at all.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Lossett went to the Crucible of Worlds here. I think a reasonable route for him is just try to cut hand off of red mana. It's not trivial to get to triple red with the blue and white requirements that are in Hand's deck as well. Beyond that, I think the Pithing Needle was a reasonable response to the combo here. Nothing else here seems great to me. The Spatial Contortion is reasonable, but it's not like Hand is that creature heavy, and Hand can just play a control game anyway. But I think that I like the Crucible here. I would consider bringing that in.
On the other side of things here for Dylan Hand, a Supreme Verdict, a Wear Terra, Keranos, God of Storms, 2 Izzet Static Craster, 3 Stony Silence, 3 Leon Sanctity, 2 Shadow of Doubt, and 2 Crumble to Dust. Somebody came packing for Tron.
I mean, Shadow of Doubt, Stony Silence, and Crumble to Dust are all on the short list of best sideboard cards you can have against Tron. I'm sure these are for different decks. Something like Valakut and Affinity, and decks that are more dedicated to searching with Shadow of Doubt. But they all have good applications here. And I think, given how good Hand's matchup is Game 1, things are only getting better post board.
Yeah, this is a nightmare scenario for Joe Lossett. Typically, when I was playing Tron, I was assuming that maybe my opponents have like 1 Crumble to Dust or Sowing Salt. And, a lot of people just like to play a Miser's one of and whatever. Dylan's got 2. Stony Silence, awesome against you for obvious reasons. And then Shadow of Doubt, come on.
Especially with Stony Silence is so good in this matchup because Lossett's best answer to the combo is sitting on Oblivion Stone. If that's no good, it's not like he has access to Running Volley or a whole load of instant speed cards in general. So if Hand has a good mixture of these cards, I think it's going to be tough on Lossett.
Well, these players will shuffle up here for game number 2. Dylan Hand up a game. So Joe Lossett will be on the play for game 2 with his Mono Green Tron deck. You see, Dylan was playing with those Magus of the Moo sleeves, and what we do with some of our game night favorites is we put them on sleeves. So for the old Slobber Mile Driver, well, you can get those 2 in playmat sleeves and player bundles. You love them.
It was so smooth.
You love them.
The Slobber and Mile Driver playmat, I can't get it the first time. It was like Penguillian Click. It took me a couple reps to be able to get it down, Slobber and Mile Driver. He's driving miles with a slobbering dog in the car. Playmat sleeves, player bundles, go.starcgames.com/creature collection, or head over to our dealer booth at our invitationals, opens, classics, and so forth.
Not only do we have that, but we've also got my good friend Los Tigre.
Okay.
Adorable.
That is adorable.
Yeah, now Craig calls him Stripes.
Okay.
And he had a name for that one, but I forgot it.
He kind of looks like Levi, my cat.
Oh, this again.
And my girlfriend has completely enabled our cat to the point where he will only drink out of the sink. So we don't have our bathroom sink anymore. And the tiger is obnoxiously playing in a lake that maybe other people would like to use. So all sorts of parallels here. Again, go.starcgames.com/creature collection. Get your hands on Levi, the obnoxious, enabled, but still very adorable tiger.
Well, with that, we're going to head back to the match and learn a little more about Joe Lossett very quickly before game number 2 does begin. Joe, of course, experiencing a lot of success. He is the West Coast player that is proving that you really can do it from the West Coast. He is the captain of Team Nerd Rage Gaming, 36 years old, is the Redlands, California native with 19 open top 8s, 2 invitational top 8s, and he's looking for his 3rd one here this weekend to solidify his spot to the Players' Championship.
Quite the accomplishment for him to be able to get back to the Players' Championship year after year, given the proximity of events. Lossett has worked hard to get to this point and is very close to locking up a slot here in Season 1.
Joe's one of my favorites because, first of all, he's just a really good Magic player, a really good guy, but, I'll talk to Joe at every tournament, and I'll say, hey, man, you come to the next event? And he's like, I don't know.
And then he's just there.
And he's just always there. He's, I don't know. It's kind of far. I just might spend the weekend at home or something. And then, next event, Joe's just like, hey, what's up? I'm just like, yeah, I thought you weren't going to come. He's like, I figured it out.
Yeah.
He always figures it out. He always figures out ways to win, too, be it miracles, be it with his standard decks, or with this Tron deck, which is a pretty crazy take, honestly, on Tron. I did not expect this from Joe this weekend.
A couple copies of Warping Whale in the deck, too. Not surprising to see that card show up a little bit in Tron strategies. I know when that card got previewed, people were expecting it to show up actually as an answer to Splinter Twin, but then Splinter Twin got banned. And still versatile enough to show up.
Yeah, it's got 3 lines. All 3 lines are pretty relevant. As Dylan did take a mulligan, so he'll take a look at his 6 cards here, see if he finds something that he likes. He'll scry, so it looks as though it's good enough. For Joe, he'll start things off on the expedition map. We'll see if he can have Tron on turn number 3. His hand is going to play a steam fence, and there's the battlefield tapped. Now, one of the things I always did when I play Tron is I always sack right away. My thought is always, he could have Shadow of Doubt, even though it's like rarely played. Now, Dylan played a mountain as a second land, but when you get got, you only get got once, and it never happens again.
Yep.
So if Joe had gotten got there, it could have been a complete disaster.
I mean, I play Burn and Zoo, and I'm still nervous about randomly getting hit with Shadow of Doubt. If I was playing Tron, that would be near the top of my list of things to be playing around.
It's the one time. Remember at Grand Prix Charlotte last year, Chapin getting Shadow of Doubted?
No,
he did the Shadow of Doubting.
Alexander Hayne.
Yeah, to Alexander Hayne. Never again. This can never happen again. Here's a Chromatic Star. Joe's going to sacrifice that, draw a card. Here's a Sylvan Scrying. Now, back in the old days, and by old days I mean 2 weeks ago, you would search up an Eye of Ugin here.
Well, I think Lossett has Ulamog in hand.
Wow.
So he's got a turn 4 double Stone Rain. Speaking my language.
Yeah, this is right up your alley. He will get another copy of Urza's Tower, and if he does have Ulamog next turn, and it looks like he does, this is going to outpace all of Dylan's hate, really. It's going to outpace Stony Silence. It's going to outpace Crumble to Dust. And you don't want to remand Ulamog.
No.
Just going to put that out there.
What's the parallel there? Is it Petrodon? Is that the old one?
Yeah. Petrodon is the real expensive. It was I believe. I want to make sure I'm correct about this, and we can bring it up. I believe creature type is Nightmare Beast.
Yep.
If memory serves.
This is a better Petrodon.
A little better. Not much. A little more expensive than the Petrodon. But it is a Nightmare Beast.
And it has fire breathing, even though that doesn't look like it breathes fire, really.
No, it doesn't. Maybe a little bit of a flavor miss there. Oh, Mana Leak on Ulamog. All right, well, you know what? It's gone. So are most of Dylan's lands, but Ulamog is taken care of. Here comes Joe, or excuse me, here comes Dylan with the Snapcaster
Small
Mage.
miracles. Still not a great spot.
Hey, stranger things have made me do a cartwheel, so,
That is true.
Dylan could win this game, though I like Joe's spot right now.
I hope he's got the Crucible.
The Sanctum. Okay.
I was hoping for a Ghost Quarter Crucible action here.
So look, this isn't quite Eye of Ugin.
No.
Is Sanctum of Ugin, but it's something. It is certainly something.
Taps for mana on its own, at least, but not Eye of Ugin in this deck.
Yep. This is the difference. This is the question right now is how playable is Tron without Eye of Ugin? You saw Joe down a game, and in a spot like this, he would have definitely searched up Eye of Ugin and went nuts.
Easy mode.
Yep.
If he can get Eye of Ugin, this game, it's a trivial win. He's still got to answer some things now without access to the free win.
Now, I think he may have found another copy of Ulamog.
Want to wait until Dylan gets second land.
Ah, nice. that's just a really good play by Joe. Dylan will draw. Snapcaster Mage coming in for 2. For how much longer is the question. Dylan doesn't have a second land, so you want to hold out here, don't you?
I can go for Ulamog here, I guess. It's not a bad spot against an opponent with 2 permanents.
Yeah.
But,
Maybe a flawless
kind of want to
victory.
get the more lands.
No, I understand it. You have a real penchant for wanting to destroy lands. So here's a Chromatic Sphere. Ulamog number 2, going to take care of both the permanents, sacrifice the Sanctum Move, going to go to Worldbreaker, and Dylan says, no more, that's good enough for me.
We're good.
As Joe Lossett will tie things up against Dylan Hand. Mono Green Tron, Jeskai Control, getting ready here for game number 3 now. All kidding aside, that does display the power of Tron in a general sense.
And this is a problem now with this version of Splinter Twin is it takes a lot longer to get to bear. Lossett being able to race to a turn 4 Ulamog there's no way Hand can combo out in front of that. So he's kind of at the mercy of Lossett's best draws, and Lossett had a very good one that game, and Hand had no chance.
That's Tron at its finest. But, again, you see the real difference there without being the search for Eye of Ugin. You actually have to find it, whatever it is, and it has to line up correctly where you could search for the right threat. Now you actually have to draw to Ancient Stirrings into it, and Joe was able to do that, so that's why he's able to tie things up. It's an interesting build. To me, this is a real gamble of a deck this weekend.
It's a toned-down deck, definitely in power level. Eye of Ugin is a big card to lose. But at the same time, if you expect Ancestral Vision and Thopter Sword to usher in a wave of slower value blue decks, powered down version of Tron still could be reasonably good in that kind of metagame.
Yeah, it could be perfectly fine, and it looks okay right now. And we'll see if Dylan can put together that combo of Kiki Jiki and Restoration Angel to kill Joe quickly, or draw any of those sideboard cards, because he's got some really nice ones.
Yes, he does.
Well, while these players shuffle up here for game number 3, it looks like Joe's going to go back to the drawing board real quick. Dylan is good to go. We're going to, of course, show you what these players are playing for here this week, and it is that prize slide. And give you an idea what first place is at an invitational. It's $10,000, 50 SCG points, an invite to one of our next invitationals. Our next one will be in New Jersey. Just for you. Just for you. You know, still haven't had that Cleveland Invitational yet. Powers it be at Star City. Just still kind of waiting for that.
We're in Ohio right now.
That's not the point.
How close are we to Cleveland right now? Like an hour away or something?
2.5 hours, but again, that's not the point.
Okay.
Columbus is nice. Cleveland is better. And, of course, always coming to New Jersey. But, again, first place, $10,000, 50 SCG points, an invite to one of our next invitationals, and an invite to the next Pro Tour, which will be Pro Tour Eldritch Moon, and a qualification to SCG Players Championship in Roanoke at the end of the year. And your likeness on a card, presumably a clue token.
Nice for these tournaments to get more and more lucrative.
Oh, yeah.
Great to see the prize pool expanding here. Now, interestingly enough, those SCG points you see on the side there, and there's so many to give out, they're actually working to Lossett's detriment in this tournament because this is the way that he can get caught, the way that Andrew Tendron can get caught. Hypothetically, the way that even Jeff Hoagland can get caught is someone, especially coming in that second place finish there, 40 points, a lot of people jump into the top 3.
Well, these players are watching over their shoulder. Joe Lossett, Andrew Tendron, Jeff is kind of breathing easy, but let's say Jeff picks up a losses round. All of a sudden, he's 3-3.
If you don't day 2, you don't walk away from this tournament feeling good if the people 4 through X are all hanging around there having good tournament performances.
Yeah, you ask yourself, what's the likelihood that someone could make a run and actually catch one of these guys? Well, we saw it at both of our Season 4 invitationals.
I mean, Jeff rather has basically been in first place from bell to bell.
Yeah.
He's been in first place the whole time, and he can still get upended this weekend. He's not out of the woods just yet.
It'll take a lot, but it certainly can happen as both these players do take a look at their opening hand. But if you talk to Joe Lossett, and Nick Miller did a great write-up about this as Dylan's going to take a mulligan. Joe said, if I qualify this season, that's great. But my goal is just to qualify for the Players' Championship, period. So if it doesn't happen this season, maybe it'll happen next season. Maybe it'll happen overall at the end of the year. But I just want to go back. So I think that mentality is smart. Now, obviously, you want to get out of the way as soon as you can. But Joe's confident enough in his skills, and he's qualified for the Players' Championship the past 2 years. And I think it's reasonable to have that level of confidence.
Nothing's ever a lock, and especially in Magic. The game's got a lot of variance to it. And all the players that we've had in the Players' Championship have had spells of having bad tournament performances. So it's not like anything's a lock. But Lossett's been one of the most consistent performers on the tour now for several years. And in spite of the challenges geographically of making enough events to qualify, he's been able to do it. So I do expect him to get back, if not this weekend, then sometime later this year.
Well, well, well. Let's see if Dylan can find a 6-card hand that he likes. He's going to keep an Scry. Top card going to stay on top very quickly, and we're underway here in game number 3 as there is a Scalding Tarn. For Joe, and there's his Power Plant, a Chromatic Sphere, and he'll pass the turn back over to Dylan Hand. Hand will sacrifice both of these lands, and I've seen
Stony Silence, you think?
I've seen some Jeskai players in my day. They don't mess around on turn 2. Look, it's either that or Wall of Omens. One of these cards is way better than the other.
I'm guessing Wall of Omens no longer in the deck.
I have a feeling you're correct. There are some higher impact cards.
It's a little bit of an Emrakul Annihilator cushion, but probably not a card you want in the deck.
There is Stony Silence. Now, this is a real problem for the Tron deck, depending on how their draw lines up. Now, if Joe's got Natural Tron, not the end of the world, but Chromatic Sphere currently, a mulligan. Now, there's Nurse's Mine.
Also stops Oblivion Stone, which is Lossett's most reliable way to interact with the combo, plus just hands board in general.
Yeah.
So it's a problematic card.
Visions are on suspend now, and Dylan can only pass the turn back over to Lossett. Does he have the Tower of Power? That's the question. It is not. It's just another power plant.
Hand full of cheap artifacts right now.
Surprise, surprise.
He does have Ugin, so if he spikes Natural Tron and that resolves, he's in the driver's seat.
Yep. There's no stone. Pass the turn back. Dead for now as Visions will tick down to 3. Handle draw. Wear tear the draw. Interesting. All right, he's going to take down Oblivion Stone. Maybe a little hasty?
I can appreciate if you're going to cast it anyway, you don't want to get in a position where Lossett randomly unlocks, gets the Stony Silence off the table and unlocks. I think that if he was going to run that sort of play, I would have been more inclined just to get the cantrip off the table because he's so far away from Oblivion Stone being a factor. I'm not opposed to main phasing a Wear Tear there.
There's another sphere. Lossett will pass the turn back over to hand as Visions ticks down to 2. There's land number 3 for Dylan. It's an island. He'll pass the turn back over to Joe. Joe looking to spike a tower.
Now, if hand can get to crumble the dust, the game's probably over.
Yeah, most likely.
That's asking too much to break out of.
Now with those Visions there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. A star. Joe will pass the turn back. Lightning Bolt, we're going upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Snapcaster Mage the draw. Now, I know Dylan's got another red card in his hand. I don't know which one it is, but he's got a red card in there. Ah, it's a forest, not a Ursa's Tower. Lossett will cast Ancient Stirrings. Maybe this will find him the tower, assuming it resolves, which it will.
But with Crumble the Dust in hand sideboard, it might be too little too late, even if he finds a Tron piece here. He's already played a land this turn. Hand's going to untap and draw 7 cards.
That's a lot of cards.
And I think it might be asking too much here if he loses access to Tron for the rest of the game.
I have a feeling you may be right, my friend, as Joe will take a look at those top 5 cards. He gets to take a land or colorless card with him from the Stirrings. Oh, what will it be? A basic forest is the selection. Does Joe have another artifact to play? Does he even want to play another one? Here's a Snapcaster Mage. Lightning Bolt you. Bring you down to 14. It's a tie game.
Just got to get a little pressure. I mean, the bolt last turn was not great, but followed up with Snapcaster, another bolt. Now he's got a real clock here.
And 6 additional cards. Let's make it 7 with the draw step. Is there a Crumble the Dust in Joe Lossett's future? That's the question. Snapcaster Mage is going to come across for 2. Colonnade is the land, so it's not here just yet. I believe Dylan will have to discard 1 card. The red card in hand right now is a Lightning Bolt. So no Crumble to Dust, no Kiki Jiki. The discard is a Path to Exile. And a Vendilion Click off the top of the deck, but the draw wasn't Urza's Tower. All right, things might get a little interesting now. So Joe's going to have to show the grip. One of them's an Ugin. Karn, some other artifacts. All right, with the tower in hand and Vendilion Click's inability to select that, we might have a game on our hands now.
I think Ugin's got to go out of this.
Well, Ugin definitely has to go, but the Karn solves the Stone Silence problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ugin makes this easy mode. Karn's still a very potent play.
Yeah. Now, Joe, his Ugin count, I think, just 1.
He has 1 copy.
Okay. Now, they get to draw a card, of course. And I think the Tower of Power has got to be the land here. Karn can take care of the Stony, and then we'll see where he wants to go from there. If he even wants to take care of the Stony right now, I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't want to. Seven mana. Some carnage shall ensue. Though again, I'm curious to see how Joe wants to use the powerful Planeswalker. He also has a copy of Pithing Needle in hand. Down to 3. All right, Stony Silence down.
I thought possibly there's an argument there for getting Vendilion Click off the battlefield.
Same.
Because then Snapcaster Mage can't kill your Karn next turn. Maybe you can reload, but I think Lossett's hand is so predicated on artifacts being able to function that he can't really risk it. And a Lightning Bolt can just finish off the Karn next turn, so I thought it was at least worth considering going after Vendilion Click, but I think you have to get Stony Silence off the table in this spot.
All right, he's going to break a sphere. Likely for a green mana, so colorless and a green mana floating as he used a Tron piece. See what's next. Break that sphere. Didn't get a great look at the draw there. But he does have a copy of Sylvan Scrying in hand.
Unless there's a particular thing that Lossett is looking for, I was not that thrilled with the way that he sequenced this turn. I would have preferred Sylvan Scrying as the first cast because I want to shuffle the Ugin back in somewhere random in the deck and then start breaking my cantrips. Because Ugin's probably the best thing that Lossett is still playing towards here, and I just want to give myself maximum number of shots. He knows right now that Ugin's on the bottom of his library because it got set there by Vendilion Click. So unless there was some very specific card he could draw to that would influence the sequencing, I would have preferred to shuffle first before cantripping.
And now he's going to Nature's Claim his Chromatic Star because he wants a little bit more life. So he's going to go up to 16 and get to draw a card. All right, Urza's Power Plant to draw. Now keep in mind, with Chromatic Star, when it dies, you draw a card.
Yeah, Sphere is a sacrifice trigger, but Star is just when it goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, so you can blow it up and gain 5 life and still cantrip.
Yeah, done that quite a bit with the old Nature's Claim. All right, here come the beatdowns. 5 damage. Karn down. And now we're untapping. Now this is very strange because Dylan, as he's going to play Restoration Angel, he has not found really any of his Haymaker sideboard cards. I guess he did find Stony Silence, so here's Warping Whale. Hello. Goodbye, Vendilion Click.
And I think Hand there went for Restoration on Vendilion Click to get another Vendilion Click, but Lossett able to exile it with this rather awkward card.
And Joe has, I think Joe has an awesome follow-up too in Karn.
And keep in mind right now, Hand only at single red mana. He's very far away from threatening the combo.
Here's a Needle. Let's see what Joe wants to name with this. He'll get confirmation here in just a moment. All right, he's going to name Colonnade. Stop the creature land from doing anything. Now he's going to play Karn, which triggers Sanctum, which is going to find, oh boy, could be Ulamog. Yes. Goodbye, Restoration Angel. This would be one heck of a comeback.
Yeah, once Lossett got out of the stranglehold there of Stony Silence, Hand has not been putting a lot of pressure or being that disruptive. And Lossett with the green light here, his deck's much more powerful.
Had to resolve 2 visions this game. Now there's a Relic. He'll use that. Dylan will have to remove something from the graveyard. So Scalding Tarn exiled. Now we head Dylan's way. Lightning Bolt will take care of Karn. Snapcaster Mage will come across for 2. Lossett down to 12. But now we get to head back Joe's way, and that means we might have an Ulamog be cast here in just a moment.
Lossett has just found another copy of Warping Whale, which is not bad here. Even if something goes wrong with the Ulamog play, worst case scenario, he can kill the Snapcaster Mage, then the boards are clear, with Lossett drawing 2 much more powerful cards on average than Hand is.
That's a lot of mana, 10 of it, of course. Here is Ulamog. Cast trigger, we'll see what Joe wants to target. Remember, those Colonnades are taken care of because of the Pithing Needle.
I'm imagining here that it's Steam Vents and one of the blue-white duels.
Okay. I was thinking Steam Vents plus Snapcaster Mage could be an option here. I think Steam Vents is the one that we agree on, though.
Yeah.
That's got to go.
Cut him off a red for sure.
Yeah. See what else Joe wants to target. You see he's a little unsure of what he wants to do. Probably an unfamiliar situation working himself out of this corner. There's Mana Leak. Lossett does not have the necessary mana to pay for it, so Mana Leak is going to resolve. This is a path to exile on the Snapcaster Mage.
Might as well go get a land on your way out if you're not going to be pathing anything else.
It's interesting, though, right? Because does Joe want to fight back with Warping Whale here?
Now, this is kind of a weird spot, you know. If your opponent is saying, I'm desperate enough for a land that I'm willing to use Path to Exile, part of you says, well, I should probably just fight back if they're willing to use it this way. Mm-hmm. But the Warping Whale gives Lossett protection against all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
So even though usually you're just supposed to play along, if your opponent wants to path, you might as well fight over it. I think Lossett's saying it just doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah, it's a strange little game that these two players are playing right now. All right, back to Dylan Hand. He'll pass the turn back to Joe Lossett. Relic activation. And Dylan will have to exile a card. I think a Mana Leak bites the dust. Mana Leak pretty poor right now. Here's Restoration Angel. Looks like that's in there. All right. Back to Dylan. An attack for 3. Lossett's going to fall down to 9. Suspend Ancestral Vision. 4 counters. Kick it back to Joe. Now, if you've ever been wondering what's life like for a Tron player without Ayavugan, you see it right now.
This is another game that would have been trivial to win if that card was available in Lossett's list.
Warping Whale in hand. What's Joe thinking here? Looks like he might sacrifice the relic. He's going to activate it first. Now he'll sacrifice it. Graveyards are exiled. And looks like it's a draw card. Didn't get a great look.
We have a Chromatic Sphere was the draw.
Well, that's a redraw. There are worse spots.
It's a nice thing about Tron, even though it doesn't have all that many payoff cards, it's so redundant. So many cycling cards and Ancient Stirrings to that end. Get a lot of looks at the same stuff.
There's Karn Liberated. Cryptic Command. We'll take care of that, and hand will draw. The follow-up is the Sphere. Joe will sack the Sphere, and now he'll draw a card. Oblivion Stone was the draw, though I'm curious if he wants to cast it right now. It does leave it open to an artifact removal spell, but he will.
Well, I think that Lossett's not necessarily concerned with this getting tagged by a removal spell, because it's not clear he can even afford to break it in the first place. He does lose his Pithing Needle in that scenario, and the Pithing Needle is holding down the Colonnade. That Lossett doesn't answer that cleanly right now.
Now, it looks like Dylan did forget to remove a counter from Ancestral Vision. Now, that's your own trigger. So if you miss that, you miss it, and it stays on 4. Not sure how much that's going to matter this game, but it's not something you want to miss. But again, this is kind of what we saw a little bit in Standard. Players have to get used to playing with werewolves now. Got to get used to the suspend cards being back as well. For Dylan, he'll attack for 3. Restoration Angel will knock Lossett down to 6. Now here's Stony Silence again, timely. As we head back over to Joe Lossett, who will draw a card.
And Hand there had an opportunity to crumble to dust, but I think at this point he's thinking Stony Silence cuts off a lot more threatening action, and Lossett has enough mana to work with at this point that he might not even need Tron to cast whatever his payoff cards are.
Lossett will just pass the turn back. Hand will remember the suspend counter this time. He'll draw a Sacred Foundry. Restoration Angel in for 3 more. Lossett is down to 3. If Dylan has a crumble, we'll see if he wants to cast it now. He'll play a Sacred Foundry untapped. And now he will play Crumble to Dust. Joe wants to read that. Now, I think he targeted Urza's Power Plant, which is a weird target because it's not going to kill all 3. It only kills 1.
Yeah, it is just a Stone Ring.
Yeah, it's not.
And then you get to lobotomy everything else, but it's not like get every copy of non-basic land X and exile.
Yeah, so he would have wanted to target Tower or Mine, anything but the Power Plant, because he's only going to kill 1 of those, so Joe still has Tron online.
You see, Lossett with Warping Whale, he could have used to counter it and didn't even bother.
Yeah, because it's such a weird selection. So now all of a sudden, Joe doesn't have to use his Warping Whale, and if he spikes Ulamog or Ugin here, we got an interesting game.
But it has to be right now. He's dead on the table next turn, so.
1 draw step. Let's see how he does. It's a basic forest. And you saw with that hand motion a little bit of disappointment. It was not one of those big payoff cards, and all Lossett can do is pass the turn back now. Dylan will draw a card. Dylan's got to be better about remembering those Ancestral Vision triggers, I'll tell you that much. He's 5-0, moving on to 6-0 here as Joe Lossett a little bit of frustration. Dylan Hanna win this match 2-1. Jeskai Control will take down Mono Green Tron. If he wants to keep on this pace, I think his deck selection is good. He's got to clean up the play a little bit, though.
Yep, Lossett there playing through one more turn just to see if Dylan would forget the Ancestral Vision trigger, thus adding to his frustration. Dylan obliged, still remember to attack for lethal, 6-0.